Well, this is a different kind of video than you might be used to. One person who happens to watch us.
Well, yeah, it is. This is new.
This is something completely different.
This is your idea.
This was my
so
idea.
You should introduce it.
To make up for being absent the most of the three of us on the main podcast.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nonplussed Bookcast. This was an idea that I had mainly from my abundant absence from the podcast. If you know anything about me, Ben, you'll know that I fucking love to read manga. I read a lot of it. Mm-hmm. I read so much of it. I'm up to date on all the news of my faves and even stuff that I don't even care about because I'm just that into the medium. So,
yep, like Rurouni Kenshin.
Yeah. What a fucking way to start that up. Anyway, so recently, literally for like the last year and a half, almost 2 years since I finished reading Jojo Part 5, you've wanted me to read Jojo Part 6, and I've been putting it off to read stuff like Berserk, Dragon Quest, Dino Daiboken, and Flame of Recca. But I was like, after all of those, I'll get to Part 6. And last October, I finally finished Flame of Recca after almost 2 years of reading the thing on and off.
I don't even know what Flame of Recca is. Is it good?
It's good. It's long. It's 33 volumes long. So... and I just kept getting distracted from that to read other things. Like, out of those 3 series I just mentioned, I started reading Flame of Recca first, and then I started reading Dino Daiboken, and then Berserk, and I finished them. I finished them in the order of Berserk, and Recca.
That's an interesting reading list.
It was a backlog, essentially. And, and it just sort of piled up, and then one day I was like, no more. And then I finally got to JoJo Part 6. And then I know you wanted me to read that for the longest time. So after... Yeah.
Because, like, spoilers, I've read Part 6 already. This is your, like, the first time through.
First time through JoJo.
I've made it through twice, but it was back in high school, so my memory ain't what it was, but I think I remember pretty much everything.
Yeah. And so I was finishing reading it this week, and I was like, hey, Ben, Andrew has not read this, but do you want to do like a little bonus episode where we discuss Part 6? And you were like, hell yeah. And then I got an even better idea as I was finishing Part 6, like, do you want to make this like a book club of sorts, in a sense?
Hell yeah.
Where like we read a series together, and you've wanted to do this since I was reading Berserk.
Makes sense.
Where it's like we do a read through together, and then we record like an hour or so of our thoughts on it, and then at the end, one of us will recommend something new. And you were like, "That sounds like a swell idea, mate." That's how you say things, right?
Yeah, that is. G. Willikers, what a Gucci glasses good idea.
What an epic idea, Ben said.
Wow.
He stood
what
up
an
from
epic
his desk
idea,
and
gamers.
started screaming out the window.
Oh man. Yeah.
So that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. We're talking about and Part 6. Yeah!
Specifically. And this doesn't even have to be limited to manga. We can do, like, comic books if you want.
I have a list of recommendations, so yep.
Nice. Well, we'll get to those as soon as we get this ball rolling.
Let's do that. Part 6.
Yesterday, I finished JoJo Part 6. Now, if you want to talk about my overall thoughts on the part...
I'm interested.
I think... you can separate parts 1 through 3 and 4 through 6 into their own like chunks, and I guess 7 and 8, which I've not read, you said can like be its own thing.
I would say,
or
that
is it
7
just
and 8
in essence its own thing?
7 and 8 is something that you could probably. It's weird because I feel like you still have to like watch/read the entirety of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to like fully enjoy 7 and 8. But if you started at 7, you wouldn't be missing too much.
You wouldn't be faulted? Well, I'm sure the fan base would rake you over the coals.
Absolutely, but they can go fuck themselves.
Mm-hmm. This is your read-through, viewer.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. There ain't no rules, even if there may be rules.
There's like, well, it's like the rules of read it in order don't necessarily apply to JoJo's because it's very... It's structured very differently from most continuing series from 1980. Like...
Yeah, it's not like Doctor Who where you have to start at episode 1 or whatever.
Oh, you don't... No, actually, Doctor Who is very much like this. You could... Actually, with Doctor Who, you could start anywhere. Yeah. Like
okay, I'm sure there's some series like that.
Yeah.
Or just incredibly long series like One Piece or Berserk, where you need to start at number 1 if you're going to understand the context of anything that's happening.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. One Piece in particular.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Holy shit. Anyway, so if you want to talk about my overall thoughts on part 6, when compared to parts 4 and 5, I'm much more split on my opinions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I like, and there's a lot of stuff I really did not care for, specifically in the second third.
Yep. The second third is, I would say it's got some of the strongest bits, but it also has some of the weakest.
Literally, I think that one arc, Dragon's Dream, that might be the worst arc in the entire series. That was terrible.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty fucking boring. I think, although to be fair, in defense of Dragon's Dream, which is not much.
What an untrue sentence.
Yeah, well, anyway. Okay. I think that
I'm just teasing you. You can start.
I think that with Dragon's Dream, the issue with it is that it's kind of the same issue that I have with what's it called? With Dragon Ball. Yeah, really? Because I've got an issue with Dragon Ball in how its power system is, but it's like its power system is like just chi, or like ki, or whatever. And it's and like a lot of series do systems like that where it's just like this is it's like the power system is like kind of built off of the concept of chi, and I think being a Westerner and not coming from a society that in some extent has like an actual like foundational understanding of what chi is and all that shit.
Or even just like an appreciation.
Yeah. And so it's like I feel like with Dragon's Dream, it's focused entirely on a concept that just it's something that's very like I don't care, or this doesn't make sense. Because
I feel like I could understand it after I read its description and the in between portions that the volumes provide.
Because it's like
when it comes to like the actual fight,
it
was essentially torture porn for Foo Fighters.
It's
like
and
on top of that, it is fucking long.
Yep,
like it is. I think it's an entire volume long.
It's way too long. It's
and
7 chapters.
You see, no, I think it's like 6 chapters of Dragon's Dream and then 2 burn Foo Fighters, and then there's Anasui coming in a chapter, and then an epilogue chapter where they flash back to Jolene as a teenager.
Yeah.
And God, that's a slog, especially when you see Anasui come in and essentially learn that he could have done this at any point. It just makes it feel like, all right, this arc is wasting my time.
Yeah, and it sucks because Anasui is probably like one of my favorite characters in.
And when it comes to just like Foo Fighters in general, getting a standalone fight like this where she can kind of like prove how much of a survivor she is. She essentially does that in the next, like after the next arc against Father Pucci. Just how much of a survivor she is. So it really does undermine that entire 10 chapter fight where it's this long, just not terribly interesting torture porn for
Yep.
one of the best characters
Just,
in the part.
You're in the electric chair now. Oh, because I hit you in a way. I'm old and drink my own piss. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah,
But
I guess we're starting with the stuff we didn't like.
But on the other hand, though, this does have some, like, really damn good fights. Like the Marilyn Manson fight.
Oh my god, yeah. That one,
yeah.
I think my absolute favorite fights in the part were in the last third against the Sons of Dio. Specifically, Sky High and Underworld. Especially Underworld. That was bananas.
That is a fantastic fight. Like, what a fucking cool premise. And then,
even some of the earlier things, like, there are 6 of us, and, Marilyn Manson, you already said that, I think.
Yep, I did.
Yeah,
I also,
what's the other one I liked at the start?
I'm particularly big on Manhattan Transfer.
Yeah, that one was Manhattan Transfer was a total mindfuck. That thing threw me for a loop. I loved that.
It was fucking nuts. Yeah, like this is, and I can totally get why a lot of people are on the fence about this series or this part rather. Because it's
I can tell you like a little more why I'm on the fence about it. It's the main cast has a lot of likable things about them, but I don't feel it does as good of a job as making them feel like a complete unit.
Yeah.
To where the point where you see like character deaths, you get these tragic backstories that are really well done, like weather reports.
Oh yeah,
which is extremely well done. If there's one, and let me just say, as a side note, if there's one thing I never expected to see in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, it was the Ku Klux Klan. like, holy crap! I was like, whoa.
Yeah, like
this would never happen.
Yeah, okay, here we are.
Yeah, but. If there's something about them in cast, about them like not feeling together as a unit, it's when characters die and it doesn't feel like they've spent enough time together to warrant the reactions that they have to their deaths.
Yeah.
Like you see Hermes about to break down, and I'm just like, did you ever talk to Weather Report?
Yeah. No, not really.
I was thinking it didn't feel earned. And even if you're going to have characters who don't have a lot of screen time and then bite the dust,
then
it feels like you really need to have them have some impact on the protagonists. And if your protagonists are not going to spend a lot of time with, like, Weather had the most screen time with, the most time together with Emporio. If there's one person I think was going to warrant a strong reaction from Mother's death, it would be Emporio, and he was knocked out. That does
pay off.
So,
like, to be fair, that does pay off.
Oh, definitely.
Because Emporio gets Weather Report.
Yes, that was fantastic at the end.
Which is, that's fucking great.
So I think
I'd say the best death would have been Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters it was like my expectations. Yeah, I feel like that's Foo Fighters' finest hour right there.
Yep.
Where she's desperately trying to get away from Father Pucci, like turning on the water, it's boiling water. Weather Report makes it rain, and then it turns out it was a ruse, and Father Pucci was hiding the whole time. And then Foo Fighters sacrifices herself for Anasu's life, and it really shows just how far she came from being a mindless, soulless being to being someone who's able to care for others.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you really didn't need Dragon's Dream, did you?
No, really fucking didn't. But hey, we sent a bunch of stand users to go kill Jolene in solitary, so it's gotta happen.
If we're gonna talk about that solitary confinement arc, then I think the best fight in that bit was the one with Survivor.
Survivor and Planet Waves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, I was glued to the chapters just reading that because
that shit is brutal.
Yeah, you really saw them just... If we're going to talk about one thing that I think Part 6 does better than all the other parts I've read so far, it is body horror. Holy shit. It gets... You're seeing, like, at the end, you're seeing people's heads exploding. You're seeing their arms just fall off like pretzel sticks being snapped.
I remember, like... Well, it's also because, like, Jolene's stand, like, fucking stone-free, is so fucked up when you see her use it, because her body is literally unraveling. Hey, there's, like, that one fucking, fear that people have, which is of, like, holes in, like, objects. And
was it trypophobia?
Something like that. Hey, it's a phobia. Hey, if you wanna read Part 6... and you got that, oh boy.
You better wait for the anime to come out so they can put a bunch of black screen over it so you don't get traumatized.
No, but they don't have to, because they're literally, she's just spools of strings.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. And so far they've been doing pretty well with Part 5.
Yeah, I think they moved it to a later time slot to where they don't have to worry about the television restrictions as much.
Yeah, that would be nice.
You would have, if it was the earlier time slot, you would have seen like a black bar over Norancia's mouth after he cut out his own tongue. So
yeah, that's true. But then you wouldn't be able to see Giorno's stand-in tongue.
Yeah. So they're doing a good job with that. But back on Part 6, I feel that let's talk about Jolene for a little while because we're on characters. And why not talk about the main character?
She's our hot-blooded Jojo. She's of this.
The most hot-blooded one since, I would argue, young Joseph. I want to say Josuke is rather hot-blooded, but he's also just he's kind of.
Josuke,
he reads the mood to all these things. He's a very personable guy. Jolene is coming from a perspective where she's just been betrayed by the person she thought she could trust. So right out the gate, you've got this extremely justifiably angry person.
How perfect is it that dude's name is Romeo?
That was perfect. There's a lot of parallels that we can touch on later. I can just touch on it right now, like how the part starts out with a car stopping, it stopped dead in its tracks because of course it's just hit someone. It's in the rain, and the part ends with a car going into the sunset in the rain, and I'm just like, ooh, how about that? That's like symmetry. So back on Jolene. I would wager to call her maybe even my second or third favorite JoJo of the bunch.
Really? Okay, that's interesting.
I think just from where she starts and where she ended up at the end of her story. Mm-hmm. Because, you've got this person who is justifiably upset at her father, which one, bravo on Araki for being able to explore a little bit more of Jotaro's character, where it's like you see this person who's fighting the name of justice in parts 3 and 4, and then it turns out he's a bit of a deadbeat dad in part 6. That's pretty brave. Jotaro would be beloved by the fan base at that point. So discovering that he's not really good at being a parent, that he's a bit of a deadbeat, I think is a pretty brave move. The bravest move in the Joestar family since making old Joseph a poonhound.
Oh, so, yeah.
So
good
right
one,
at the
good
gate,
one, Joseph. Good one.
Yeah. Right at the gate, you have Jolene being justifiably angry at her dad and angry at the person who she thought she could trust for betraying her in her time of need.
Yeah.
And you've got this, people described her as whiny in the universe. Mm-hmm. She's just basically upset at her lot in life right now. And she comes into the prison this is fucked up. I shouldn't have to do any of this. She gets stone free. She starts working her way from essentially nothing. She has to fight her way against even her own roommate.
Yeah. Gwess. Yeah. That fight.
What'd you think of that?
So the thing is, I liked where it went. Like I thought it was cool. Just like get in the bird, Jolene, be a bird,
be a mouse. Yeah,
yeah, like that shit's
crawl around on the
that shit's good. Maybe not for the first fight.
That one's a little out there, especially when you follow it up with I think it was followed up with Hermes' sticker. You got this guy trying to kill himself, and I'm just like, all right, part 6 is going for a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
But basically, where I'm going with Jolene is that where she starts and where she ends up, it's two incredibly different people.
Yep.
You see her start off as just this person who's not willing to work towards her goals, which is quite at odds with her situation where she must, if she's going to survive in this prison. She learns from just having nothing and becoming just a smart, adaptive, and, I'd say more empathetic person because she forgives Romeo, even though he doesn't deserve it.
Except she also blows
saves
up
Emporio
his
at the end.
I don't know.
I thought Hermes did that. I don't remember.
Hermes does that. She put a
he does it. Yeah. And she saves Emporio at the end, even though she didn't need to. Yep. And she fought Father Pucci, even though it was hopeless. So I think I think it was really well done. In fact, probably one of my favorite female characters in all of Shonen, just because of the incredible amount of growth. However, by that same token,
yes,
you don't get as much interaction with the rest of the cast, especially Weather Report, who for like most of the part is essentially like a walking plot device. And then there's Hermes, who is absent for the second third of the entire story.
Oh yeah, she just kind of isn't there.
She's just not there because you get that maximum security chamber saga, which is
to be fair, she gets Limp Bizkit, and that fight is dope. That one's really good. What was the localized name in the video game? Flaccid Pancake? No, it was not Flaccid Pancake.
That one is hilarious.
Hang on.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm looking it up.
Look up like All-Star Battle.
I'm gonna
because I looked him up after I finished the part, and I'm pretty sure it's Flaccid Pancake.
It can't be. That's too good. That's too funny.
That might be my favorite one since Boy Man Man.
Boy Man Man. Don't you... Boy Man Man.
I'm a little more favorable towards the localization of the band names, even though I know a lot of people don't like it, and I don't even like all of them. But occasionally they just
occasionally they're really creative. Bad Company wasn't so great. What was it again? It was like Worst Company. Wait, no, Worst Company is fantastic.
Worst Company, yeah.
Bad Company was great.
Remember when they called Surface Show Off?
No.
Remember Surface in part 4, the one that was like a wooden doll that could transform? It was Hazamada's stand.
Wow! I forgot about that fight.
It's not very memorable.
It really isn't, no.
But people were like, why didn't they call him... They called it Show Off, and I remember reading the comments, and they were like, why didn't they call him Sure Face? Make it 2 different words. Because,
or you could just call him Surface, because that's...
because it's a word. We can't take any risks. We gotta make sure.
I guess. Or like, the bad ones, I feel, are like Crazy Diamond to Shining Diamond. Like, that
Shine on, you Crazy Diamond.
I know, it works with the name, but it doesn't have the same impact. Like, Crazy Diamondo! Like, that's just so good. But then it would be like,
Queen,
Shining Diamondo! Like, it doesn't have the same oomph to it,
Yeah. There's Shining and then there's Crazy.
Crazy! It's a crazy diamond!
Alright, but to get back on topic, one thing I think was really a nice change of pace. And I think something that was executed a little well, even though I'm sure a lot of people didn't like it, was the prison setting. Now,
I thought it was fantastic.
I can be the first to attest that I was not the biggest fan of it when it started out because I thought it wasn't terribly interesting to look at.
That's why it's like you have to add more to it.
Yeah, I thought it was a little monotonous.
You gotta make it interesting.
Yeah, and that it took way too long to escape. But, I really as the more I thought about it, the more I warmed up to the idea of, all right, everyone's wearing the same uniform. You don't really know who to trust. And I think that's at its best when you get fights against regular, like the security guard with the Planet Waves.
Viviano.
Yeah. Or the...
Guard Westwood, whatever. But yeah.
What was the... and Hermes' first fight against... Was it Limp Bizkit?
Thunder McQueen, Highway to Hell.
Thunder McQueen. Yeah, Highway to Hell. I'm sorry, I'm mixing them up.
This motherfucker's name is Thunder McQueen. Like, hang on a minute.
It's a shame he has the worst
Did he predict Cars in, in the year 2000? Because Thunder McQueen, Lightning McQueen? What?
Yeah, why is it Cars getting sued by the Iraqi Lucky Land Communications?
Well, because they spelled it with a K.
McQueen. Anyway.
Cubs.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Literal AC/DC.
That's good. But
yeah.
I liked the idea of the prison, and even though I wasn't terribly fond of it while I was reading, I've come to appreciate it more. But I do favor the times when they are outside of the prison. I think it's just much more interesting to look at. They get a lot more unique scenarios, like Bohemian Rhapsody was something that allowed for a lot of variance in just location and how someone is able to adapt to the situation. Like Ansfi was closing doors. Like, when the report was writing on the ground.
Yeah.
I feel like you couldn't get that with the prison setting. So while I think it simultaneously is able to I think it's simultaneously able to open up a lot of potential, it's also very limiting. So
yeah, that's fair.
That's my opinion on the prison
I can respect that.
setting.
I like the prison setting. I think that the main reason that the prison setting worked for me was mostly due to Father Pucci, because it's just like,
yeah, he's you want to talk about Father Pucci? Let's talk about Father Pucci.
And to an extent also the Green Baby and Made in Heaven and
the Green Child. I got flashbacks of Bayonetta chasing the little one.
Oh yeah. Little one.
That was pretty good.
Is it me? Is it you? Is it someone's daughter? Who is that? What? I don't know.
Let's talk about Father Pucci. Let me just do a brief overview for a second. I'm really glad that we got a villain who was struggling a lot, like a main villain who was struggling a lot. I feel like we really got the full potential of Kira, essentially, like him just getting the shit kicked out of him. Mm-hmm. If you really look at the majority of time and what people go through in this part, Pucci has an absolutely miserable time in this story.
Well, and part of it is
getting
because the fact it's because of the fact that his stand kind of sucks.
Yeah, Whitesnake is not terribly offensively focused. If it gets you at the right time, then yes, but it removes
It's a fantastic, assassination stand.
It's not really great for one-on-one, which is why he had to resort to, throwing Jotaro's disc away in the middle of the part.
He's literally just oh, fuck, that's Star Platinum. Yeah!
But, Pucci has an absolutely miserable time in this story. He's getting, in almost every arc fight that he takes place, and he's getting the shit beat out of him. He has to avoid poison. He's sweating a bunch, and even in the fights, he's just getting the shit knocked out of him. Even before the story started, he had a really bad lot in life, even though he was very privileged. It's just how the story ended up. But he has an absolutely miserable time in this story. It's not like Kira, who was able to completely change his life and find peace for a third of the story. Pucci, he just gets the shit kicked out of him. He gets fucked up in this part, And I thought that was really interesting to see, like, the back and forth between the antagonists and the protagonists. Like,
and the worst thing about it is he fucking wins.
Yeah, I thought that knocked me on my ass. That entire those last few bits of chapters.
Can we talk about how fucking weird and broken the Green Baby and by the extent Sea Moon and Made in Heaven are? Like,
Sea Moon,
a stand birthed from a stand. What?
Yeah, like the Green Baby is pretty simple. Like you just can't touch him. You just can't touch him. You can't approach him.
It's impossible unless he likes you.
Yeah, but Sea Moon is fucking deadly. So yeah. Sea Moon is fucking deadly, and Made in Heaven, you can't win. It's impossible. You just can't do it.
It's like the legitimate only way that you could do it was the way that Emporio did it.
Yep.
Where it's just like,
you
fuck, do it.
Yeah, have some ozone in your bloodstream.
Yep.
Yeah. What were we overview, what were we talking about? Pucci versus the protagonists, or just the last amount of chapters? Do you want to discuss those? Because we're kind of doing things out of order, but that's fine. The Sea Moon through What a Wonderful World chapters.
Sea Moon
they're fantastic.
Fantastic. Like particularly with how, because it feels like Jolene and Stone Free were specifically written to fight Sea Moon.
Yeah, I think a huge stroke of genius was that Mobius strip moment.
That's just fantastic. Like,
that one was fantastic. Like, I had to sit back and think about that for a second. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I was thinking that is genius.
Well, because it's so like, great. Okay, here's your power. Anything that I touch will just fucking fold in on itself.
And the only way to fix it is if that same spot is hit again.
Yeah. And here is like a character that is made out of string. Like, I just imagine that Araki was just like, he was finishing off part 5 or whatever and just doing his thing. He's just kind of, here's a cool idea for a stand fight, but but I'd have to get this stand user to fight this stand user. And I haven't introduced anyone in the cast at this point in part 5 who could do that. So, part 6? Like...
Well, Araki did take about a year off in between part 5 and part 6 to prepare for it.
I would imagine, but in terms of just like the writer's mentality, I imagine that the Jolene versus Sea Moon was the first idea he had. I'd imagine that.
I wouldn't put it past him because the parallel between the protagonist and the main antagonist of each part has been, as long as stands have been introduced, has kind of really worked out well. Like, you have Crazy Diamond and Killer Queen being parallels of each other. You have
other things. Should we?
Gold Experience.
We probably should say that we were going to spoil part 5 too. Andrew can't watch this video.
No, he's not. I already told him to not watch because we're going to spoil the hell out of part 6.
Fair enough.
Don't even worry about it.
Okay, so talking about part 5, fucking Golden Experience Requiem versus Other.
Anything.
This is the question, though, because I think because often when it comes to like writing these kinds of medias, there are these kind of forms of media where it's like consistent release comics. Usually you write the final encounter before you write the rest of the story. Yes. And I don't think Araki did that for part 5.
Are you sure? I thought it was, I actually thought that the Silver Chariot Requiem arc... Well, now Andrew really can't watch this.
You really can't watch this!
I thought that entire final saga was really well done, where it was essentially everyone against Silver Chariot Requiem. And
I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's incredibly well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess when it comes
it's
to
incredibly well done.
Parallel, I think it was supposed to have less emphasis on Gold Experience Requiem versus any specific stand, and more whoever gets this arrow wins.
And that's the thing, though, is because it is already established fact that the arrow basically will change your stand depending on what you need at this very moment.
Yes.
But that all, and a part of me is like, hey, that's an in-universe explanation. It makes sense. Fine. At the same time, I can also see that as Araki needed a tool for part 4 to help him make Bites the Dust, and then he was like, hey, part 5, I don't know how to do this, fuck it. Like, that makes sense.
I suppose so, because when you think about it, I'm sorry, I burped. Killer Queen Bites the Dust is essentially like Killer Queen Requiem.
Yeah.
If you want to use Requiem as like a broad term of arrow-influenced stand.
Yes. Bites the Dust, X-Forts did a video on that where he was just, is Bites the Dust a Requiem stand? Short answer, yes. Like...
Yeah, it makes sense to me, because within the rules of the universe, that makes sense.
Because, I mean, because literally Golden Experience
be
Requiem
beaten by someone who could hex the whole...
It's the exact opposite of King Crimson. Like, it's the inverse.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point. But at this... So I can see why people feel like that's forced, because I also feel like that's forced, but at the same time, it still works. Because it doesn't break any of the rules. It still
works. It just works.
It's like...
It works in the universe. Yeah. But I guess in terms of... Maybe in just... Ooh, my voice cracked.
Yeah.
Maybe in just... Within the context of how it was introduced in the story, there probably could have been more to lead up to it, which I feel that they're trying to do in the anime more, like putting the arrow in the first opening.
Oh God! Okay, the second opening though, they said it. They literally just was like, "Hey, look at this! It's the arrow!"
Yeah,
and he's stabbing himself with the arrow. Like,
well, it's not like I don't think there's a problem with that. I don't believe that. I mean, this isn't the first time they've done that. I remember I was reading comments for the second Part 5 opening, and one of the top comments was like, you guys are acting like Sono Chino Sadame didn't spell out the plot of Phantom Blood.
Oh, it totally did. So, it's more it's more to the point, because we literally watched it with Andrew, and Andrew was like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. And that's fine. But for someone who's read the part and looking through it, I can't help but wince when I see Doppio using fucking the future sight. And I'm like, wait a minute!
Yeah. Using Epitaph.
Yeah, using Epitaph. Like, hang on! No, stop going there! Stop it! Like, yeah.
Don't worry, Andrew will make... He'll be able to make sense of it after the part
just
ends.
Black it out! Like, yeah. Like, I don't know.
Introduce it later. You could have put Spice Girl in like the last 6 episodes where the opening is prominent. It would have been fine.
And can we talk about fucking Rolling Stones appearing?
In the ending? Ooh, fuck. Ooh. Wait for that.
That's a spicy meatball.
That I step on and kill my friends with.
Oh boy. Boy. Yeah.
I guess we should get back on topic.
Yeah. Part 6. Fuck.
Do you want to talk about your specific favorite arcs? I suppose we could talk about our favorite arcs of the story. We don't have to go through them. We can just talk about things that stood out to you.
Weather Report actually fighting, or Anasui actually fighting.
Do you want to talk about, well, if you want to include both of those, we can start with Bohemian Rhapsody.
No, I don't like that one. That's the only one that I'm actually not a big fan of.
I thought that was great. That was one of my favorite ones of the part.
Maybe it's because I was, like, speed reading it at the time, but I just remember leaving it just kind of like, oh, that kind of happened. Like, it just felt weirdly...
Well, I guess to be fair, the rest of the world interpreted it that way, too, where it's like all of the storybook, all the fictional...
Spider-Man! What are you doing?
I love that Anasui killed Pinocchio forever. Like,
die, Pinocchio!
Pinocchio is fucking dead.
It's like,
Anasui killed him.
Fight felt weird.
That one was trippy, and I feel like Andrew would really like that, because he's a huge Disney fan.
Fair. Like, I don't know. I
do think
it
that
feels like a fight
resolved,
I should enjoy, but I can't. It feels like
I really did
I know
like
why.
it because it was pretty invincible, but I do feel like the
It's-
way the arc resolved was a little kind of flat because like Weather Report draws a character
it led
with
to
a
Sky
putback
High and
machine.
Underworld, so fuck it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was pretty hilarious how Weather Report draws a man with a putback machine on the floor.
Yeah,
I loved that, but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I guess
it's a little
so.
weird.
Like, I'll let you have that one.
The rules for that fight aren't 100% concrete.
They're not airtight.
Yeah. But I think I think I just figured out why I don't like that fight. It's the same reason why I don't like Kingdom Hearts. I don't like characters from other franchises being in anything. Like,
it's just something that you don't care for.
I'm the motherfucker who, like, as a kid was like, if my peas and mashed potatoes touch, I'm killing everyone. Like,
I loved peas and mashed potatoes.
I do. Oh, I do too now.
That
but
shit's
it's like
delicious.
But the analogy is that it's just like, I think
these two things don't mix on a conceptual level.
You can have a crossover thing, like a game or like a thing, but it's just like,
yeah, like fighting games do that really well.
Yeah, and it's like, and we're talking about like literally free royalty, like conceptual ideas.
Yes.
Of just like, oh, it's Pinocchio, oh, it's fucking Venus or whatever. Like,
yeah, it's Michelangelo.
It's interesting, but at the same time, it just makes me feel like I'm just kind of like, it doesn't feel creative, you know?
I suppose so. That I can see where you're coming from, where just if you want to look at it that way, could come off rather flat.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of these stories will happen the way they have been written, and there's nothing you can do to escape that. I really thought that created a sense of urgency, like, we gotta fix this shit right now or we're gonna fucking die.
That's cool. I think that was the best part of The Stand. I think it might have worked better. It might have worked better if they had just stuck to fairy tales and not like every single creative thing that has ever been made is just now happening. I think...
You know what they could have done? Mm-hmm. And this would have to be a change of the entire setting, which would break the part in two. But they could have done like a crossover throughout the entire Jump magazine, since Jojo was in Jump, and characters from other comics could have passed through the story. That would have been hilarious.
He's in fucking mashed potatoes. That won't do it for me, son.
Yeah. They could have done a callback because like Fist of the North Star happened in that part. There was like a radio broadcast. They were like, because Kenshiro has come to life and he's fighting his brother.
Kenshiro's going nuts.
They could have made a joke about like how they used to be that same thing.
Yeah,
or something.
It just doesn't do it for me. I don't know why. Sometimes
I know it's not for everyone, and people who diehard defend stuff like Kingdom Hearts will be like, oh, it's charming. It's like, yeah, I guess I can see that, but it's also kind of silly.
It's like, I think it would be charming if they let it be charming, but it feels like the writing is forcing, like, I think that the best parts of Kingdom Hearts...
Dude, the writing of Kingdom Hearts forces me to be as uncomfortable as possible.
Well, it's like, because Mickey is such a fucking, like, whoa, I'm important! Like, whoa! Like, it is... He's just like,
do anything. He's like the,
Mickey saying anime lines is like, no, stop!
There's a line in Kingdom Hearts 2 where he says, I can't help you with revenge.
I can help you with revenge? Like, no, stop it! Mickey!
It's so hilarious, because like, I was like, my favorite Mickey Mouse quote.
Oh, God.
But I guess back on topic, I can understand why you wouldn't like Bohemian Rhapsody.
I think, you know what I think would fix Kingdom Hearts as a series for me?
What?
If they just went to Final Fantasy Worlds.
I was thinking, like, imagine an HD Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah! Like, okay, like, because hear me out, because it's just like, hey, you travel between Final Fantasy Worlds, you get, like, a bunch of characters who can help you. It's kind of like, I don't know, there's, like, a Final Fantasy crossover thing that they do. It's, like, DT something, I don't know. But
oh god, I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like if they did that with Kingdom Hearts, that would just help the story, because you have room for weird, goofy shit. You have room for just like okay, yeah, Final Fantasy, weird plot, whatever, and then you have room for, hey, here's this problem from the main game universe. The problem of the Heartless is infecting the world. Like, and the thing is, there are moments in Kingdom Hearts where I like the way that Kingdom Hearts works, and I like the way that its visual design, and I like how, oh, here's these anime characters interacting with Buzz Lightyear. There's a part of that that it strikes that primal chord in me that I like, but fuck, like, it just
I think
stupid.
Some of the best parts, I've never played a Kingdom Hearts game, but I've seen some of the cutscenes of 3. And that one where Woody roasts, what the fuck is his name? Xehanort.
Yeah, that's great.
I think stuff like that is something that they should have been doing from the beginning. Like, really get into my heartstrings, why I love this property, instead of making me redo the plot of a movie I've already watched, but worse and cringy.
Because the story feels so separate, like, in terms of just like,
they
here's
don't
the
matter
Disney
at all.
side,
In the
here's the anime
things.
side.
That's really what it is, isn't it?
And it feels like they dragged Mickey kicking and screaming to the anime side, and it doesn't make sense.
Put him in like a anime shit black
like,
hood.
or like,
make him
oh my
swing
god,
fucking
I don't remember
Kira.
which game it was, but there was a game that had the world that was Steamboat Willie, and so you have Sora, Donald, and Goofy as like Steamboat Willie looking characters. That's phenomenal. Like, that's so
But then
cool.
you put them in like the Little Mermaid, and they're sea creatures, and they have to like dance, and it's like no, stop. But let's get back on topic, because this is part 6.
Just learn to make games. Fuck.
Just go back to making monster designs. He was really good at that in Final Fantasy V.
Yeah. They look fucking sick.
Like, look at Final X Death. He's insane.
I probably fought him in 14. Yeah.
But like, I'm gonna focus on the first part 6 fight that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
And that is Manhattan Transfer.
Manhattan Transfer.
Because
shit, which one was that?
The Visitor.
Oh, yeah, John Gallier. Okay.
Yeah. That one stood out to me not because of like the villain of the arc being who he was, but like you get the introduction to Jojo in the part and Jolene's relationship with him. You get the introduction to Poochie, and it's basically the what's the word? It's not the inciting incident, but it is the thing that essentially gives Jolene a goal to work towards throughout the part. Because, the inciting incident was her going to prison and all of that. But I really thought it was a well-paced arc that really helped flesh out the characters a little more. It started at the goal, and just the fight itself being a total mindfuck, which I love.
Yes, that is probably the best part of the fight, is how absolutely bizarre it is.
Yeah, which, guess what? It's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And there are 2 JoJos fighting.
Wow.
And I actually thought that Jotaro had died in that. Well, he technically did. In that fight where his consciousness is separated by White Snake. And it really just gave me the impression of just how much I should fear this prison.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really effective.
Yeah, this prison is fucking trouble.
Like when they woke up twice in the same room, I was going insane. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yep.
I really like this. And it showed some of the creativity of Stone Free.
And when for a majority of the part, Father Pucci is just White Snake. You don't see him.
Yeah.
And okay,
with
I'm gonna
King
jump
Crimson, where essentially the most,
because Manhattan Transfer is great, but I need to jump back to Enrico Pucci because fuck, he's so good.
Yes.
Which
part do you want to focus on? The part where he fights in the middle, or Made in Heaven?
The part where he's anywhere at doing anything. He's cool.
I like how how well defined he is as a character. I know we've said this a bit already, but just the little things where he's like counting prime numbers to help him calm down. It's like a nervous tick.
It's just like,
or
and then it's just like, because he's like such a fucking meticulous planner, and
I like the fact that him being a priest is not a gimmick. It's something that's worked into his character. Like, there's a reason for him to do this.
Yeah, because everyone's searching for heaven.
There's like his backstory. He comes from a privileged family that really encourages studying religion, specifically Christianity. And that him working in the church basically sets off the entire plot of him getting his stand and his interaction with Weather Report.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
I gotta say, another detail that I love about White Snake in particular is how it has the human genome mapped onto it.
I was about to say the DNA.
So
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how long that must have taken to draw. Like, each little letter has to be in
Gotta get it right.
Specific.
ATCG, ATCG.
Right. Could you imagine if they messed that up in a chapter and had to fix that for the volume release? I would pull my hair out.
That would be crazy.
What little hair I have, you know.
Just let it in. But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, I gotta say, I think probably the fight that really did it for me was Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Yeah.
And the reason that I like that fight is very specific. And it's because it's the reason why I love Weather Report, even if he isn't the best character. He's one of the best designs, and his stand is it's genuinely...
Yeah, I really like Weather's design.
Yeah, it's so good. The thing about him that makes him important to me is that he fixes every single problem that I have ever had with characters that have control over the weather. Because
yes, definitely.
Because it's like, and he actively makes the concept of like weather control, quote unquote, cooler. Because the problem that I have with like characters like X-Men, like Storm, is that she's literally just weather. Like, oh, don't worry,
like,
child.
right,
I will make a snowstorm. Like, fuck off.
I'll put tornadoes in my hands.
Yeah. And then, like, with Weather Report's shit, it's just like it's just density. It's just water density.
Yes.
That's how weather works. And then but when you get to a point where it's like, yeah, you can make it so dense that moving is like walking through Jupiter. It's so dense that you just catch on fire. Like, that's fucking sick.
And just how close, and the part where it rained frogs in the where like Jillian's protecting herself in a net, like Poochie almost gets fucking killed.
Oh god, yeah.
For like the third
literally
time.
It's just there is like there's a moment there where it's just like, hey, the main antagonist just could die.
I was wondering if this was the main villain, and if he was going to show up, incapacitate Jotaro, and just get killed. And like it felt like a very real thing that could happen.
And that actually goes to a specific point that Part 6 is definitely the most depressing part.
I'm thinking of it just in the grand scheme of things, of course including the ending, and I don't think that... I'm really impressed that Araki was able to write something that was simultaneously uplifting and just soul-crushing.
Yep. Man. Yeah. Like, because it's also a tone that, for me, really infects the later parts. Because the later parts and even also some of the dark.
Even some of the earlier parts, I feel like I can't look through it with like rose-tinted glasses as much. Like, yeah, that was the times. Because even if what I took away from it is that parts 1 through 5 still happened, but part 6 never did. Because, Jotaro still exists.
You just kind of, if you really want to like feel happy for the rest of your life, think of only parts 1 through 6 as canon. Or 1 through 5. 1 through 5 is canon.
Great. I can't wait. I mean, technically it still was, but Emporia is the only one who remembers, and who even knows if he's
Shut
going
up!
to find a place
That's
in
sad.
the world. If
That's even worse. That makes it sadder.
Yeah, I feel that I was watching. I was just sort of stunned at watching him like go with the dolphin and like going to the recreated world, and then he creates the new. He creates like a new timeline, and the part essentially ends with him like crying his eyes out as as the car goes into the distance, and I'm just like, poor fucking thing.
He will be like,
Yeah.
and he's like 10.
Yeah, he's just a child.
This kid has been through
I'm just like, man,
than
the
like
balls
a
of
fucking
Iraqi
Vietnam veteran. Like, jeez.
Yeah, just all the shit that every character in this part goes through, and it's not limited to the protagonist. The antagonist gets, you see through the backstory, no one gets through this part unscathed. No one can just like, and I guess you could technically
Look,
be like,
spoiler alert, everyone dies!
Well, Irene and Anarchist are gonna get married probably, but like,
that'd be nice.
The Jolene and the rest of the cast, sans Emporio, never really existed, and I guess you could say like, but a better version of them exists. But when it comes to all of that growth that all the characters go through, being essentially for naught, I'm impressed that it was written in a way where it didn't feel like the story wasted my time. Like when that moment happened and everyone is dead, and it's that shot of everyone with an Emporia reacting to just their bodies floating in the ocean.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was made in a way where I didn't feel like, okay, so it was all that build up for nothing, they still died. It was, I'm just in anguish at them floating in the water because they've been through so much. Even if they don't feel like a complete, like, absolute unit as a group, I still felt for the absolute unit.
This lad, absolute unit.
Jotaro's the absolute unit of the group.
He really is.
Yeah. And because it's like you get all these things, and it doesn't feel like a waste of time. Like you don't get the touching reunion with Jotaro. He's just here, and he has to help everyone stay alive as best they can.
Time stop.
They just have a miserable time doing so. They're absolutely pathetic against Made in Heaven, but it didn't feel like it was like a cop out. It felt what I was supposed to feel, which is despair.
Utter and complete
and that sometimes
despair.
you can do, it really just shows that message where, two messages, where one, it's entirely possible for you to go entirely against the odds and still not come out on top in the end. Sometimes it just works out like that. But
which,
on the other hand,
the fucking original intended audience sure didn't like that.
Well, sometimes that's just how it goes down. But I guess another message that it has is with Emporio managing to kill Father Pucci and creating this entire new time. It kind of reminds me of the message that Part 5 had, where even if these people die, these people that we were close to, and spent the entire story with them, even if they go away forever and they cannot impact the world in any form, the influence that they have had, even if it was just on one person, will never go away. And that is, I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's a little more optimistic take on it. That was something I noticed as a comparison to Part 5 with Jolene's final speech to Emporio on that dolphin before she goes to fight Father Pucci. So, yeah. If we want to talk about something else, let's talk about, I think the art in this part was really good. Yeah. And that's in complete opposition to what I was just talking about earlier in the episode, where I was all, I don't like how the prison looks. I think it's a monotonous atmosphere. I think I was able to appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
the character designs for the main cast was good.
Are, like, it's every single part, the character and stand designs just get better and better. Spoiler alert for Part 8. Part 8 currently has some of the best designed, just visually designed stands.
Yeah, I've seen the cover of the volume I bought for you while I was in France. I really like the Volume 1 cover of Jojo Part 8. I think it looks really good.
Dude, Part 8 is really good. It's kind of, at the moment, it's feeling a bit Part 6-y in that at some points
Great.
it's in terms of just like its quality, because there was a stand battle that just kind of wasn't very good, but we're past that, and we recently we had one of the best stand battles just period, in a series.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that he still got it.
Yeah, some of the new stands are unbelievably cool. Just wicked.
If we want to talk about stands, then
sure.
I guess I can talk about some of my favorite stands. My favorite stand in JoJo is Gold Experience.
Fair
I
enough.
really like its applicability, even if it's not written consistently at all.
No.
Remember when Giorno said at the beginning of the part that damage to the things he creates gets reflected back onto the person, and then proceeds to tear a snake in half at the end of the first third of the part.
Maybe it doesn't apply to him?
I guess.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm explaining an obvious plot hole with that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of forgotten about in order to make the stand not as broken, even if it was going to become super fucking broken by the end.
Yeah.
But I think in Part 6, the stands, I think that it's gotten to a point. This is something I like and simultaneously might have a problem with, where the applicability of them has gotten so specific that the scenarios that they go through feel like they can only be in that one scenario with that fight. And I really liked.
Yeah.
Well, this might not be the best example.
Like Marilyn Manson, because it's that entire fight revolves around a game of catch, where Marilyn Manson is just the consequence.
Yes, or something like Jailhouse Lock or Jailhouse Rock. It's called both things. The title is Jailhouse Lock because breaking out of prison, but the stand is called Jailhouse Rock because Elvis.
Yes.
The
stand is called Jailhouse Lock.
Is it? It was Rock in my translation. It was the same. We read the same one, the color one, right?
Yes. Okay, so for whatever reason, people have been translating it from Jailhouse Lock, but in Japanese, it's Jeiru Hasu Roku, which could literally be both.
So both are right.
Lock and Rock are pronounced exactly the same in Japanese, so fuck it.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I think that one, what I was essentially trying to say is that, it has to stop people from escaping, and it essentially cuts out your long-term memory, and you only have short-term memory.
You can only.
It's what would happen. It's I think, I'm showing my college studentness, but I'm in that intro-level psychology mandatory class where I think the part of the brain is the cerebellum, and if you remove that entirely, then you lose every long-term memory past that point where you took it out. It's essentially doing that.
Okay, makes sense.
Unless you can find some way.
Well, it's just putting a blocker there, just kind of nope.
Yeah.
You don't remember that.
And I feel like, while I guess you can come up with some more scenarios, it feels like it's really well geared toward being a prison guard, a final prison guard.
And to be fair, the way that stands do work is that they are, for the most part, usually made specifically due to either the need or the personality of the person that's using them. So
Yeah.
so like with Kira, like his is probably the most applicable to his character because he wants to live a quiet life, but he's also like a psychopath. His stand destroys people in a massive flashy explosion, but leaves literally no trace, and no one else can see it. They just literally disappear.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. But when it comes to stuff that I thought it did really well, it really put the protagonists in some deep shit.
Yep.
Lots of the time. I think I would go as far as to say all of the time. Every time an enemy would appear, there would always be a really good twist to the fight, unless, you know, it's not working out. Like something like Dragon's Dream or Yo-Yo Ma just being fucking weird.
Yeah, Yo-Yo Ma's... I don't know.
I didn't hate that one. I just thought that was really weird. Like,
yeah,
I get it, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but that thing is just bizarre. It's like polishing shoes and simultaneously trying to melt your mouth.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. But it really instilled a lot of hopelessness in me. Like in There Are Six of Us against Foo Fighters, there was that part where they needed to stay close to the deceased prison guard, I believe, and meanwhile they will get killed if they lose sight of Foo Fighters, who is running the opposite direction, and this prison guard is sinking in the water.
Yep.
so it's like they are in some deep shit. I think even though I'm like 20
fucked.
chapters in, they're gonna die.
Yep.
It really comes off like that sometimes.
It is so fucked. Also, funny
Yeah.
thing, with Yo-Yo Ma, his stand user D&G, D&G stands for Dolce and Gabbana, which is an Italian fashion house.
Interesting, because I thought he had some of the weirdest apparel outside of Jailhouse Locke's user. So, you know.
Fair enough, yeah.
Maybe he's a literal fashion
Yeah,
house having the entirety of that. I think my favorite stand of part 6 was Stone Free, just because of that. I think the Mobius strip really sealed it for me. I was like, that is genius. If there was something I really didn't care for, Dragon's Dream, I don't think it's convoluted, I just didn't care for it. Maybe it just missed its mark
didn't do
with
it for me either.
But, you know.
There's just no reason for it, really.
I feel like you could have shortened that thing by at least half. It was...
Yeah. I'm gonna say
it's just I'm beginning and like ending
my favorite stand
with Dragon's Dream.
it'd be a toss up between Diver Down and Weather Report.
God, we've barely talked about the side characters. Do you want to touch on them?
Well,
we've talked about Weather Report.
Say, like, I mean, okay,
that's fair. They don't get as much screen
Hermes is
time.
cool.
I like Hermes a lot. She's
doesn't
a
get
beast.
a lot of airtime.
Her backstory's tragic, but I don't feel like she gels as well with the group as she was supposed to, which really makes her reactions towards Weather's death feel kind of phoned in. Like, you're sad.
Her arc kind of ends with the death of Sports Max. He would have made a better, like... It might have been better if Sports Max was,
like
instead,
a number 2?
it would have been better if he was, like, the Underworld user.
I guess so, but I also feel like Versace was really good antagonist, too.
Yeah, that's true.
I really did enjoy. I didn't expect him to live as long as he did. Like he survived all the way through Heavy Weather.
Yep.
And that shit was bananas.
Yeah.
God, Heavy Weather was just an insane fucking arc. Oh my god,
bizarre.
the snail shit. I'm fucking terrified of snails, so that shit was hard for me to read.
You're terrified of snails?
I'm not scared of slugs. I'm fucking scared of snails because when I was a young lad of like 13. My older sister had all the volumes of Junji Ito's Uzumaki. And Andrew was reading it, and he was really compelled in it. And so I looked at a chapter with him, and it was the snail chapter.
Yeah, that explains it. Yep.
Ever since that day, I have been fucking terrified of snails. I am genuinely afraid.
Dude, fucking eat some escargot. Get revenge. Face your fear.
I was in France for 6 weeks. I should have done it.
Oh well. Man. All right.
Yeah, that's why that was insane. I really liked that, but at the same time, it was really hard for me to read. It's like the same thing if you wanted to read Aerosmith's introductory arc, but you were scared of spiders.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have much else to say on part 6. I should have read it before we were doing this, but kind of came out of the blue.
It's fine.
Yeah,
I did kind of come up to you with this idea. So compared to parts 4 and 5, I am a lot more split on it. I don't know, in my pantheon of JoJo parts, part 5 is still at the top because I think it has the best stand battles.
Yeah,
it's not only these stands are written in a conceptual sense, but I think it makes really good use of the environment, which I think 2/3 of part 6 severely limits with its prison setting, because you can't go here, you can't go in the halls, you can only be in this place. No.
Sorry, I just had a big yawn there. All I can say
yeah,
is part 5 is going to be usurped.
When we get to part 7 and 8.
I'm just saying, man.
I've heard high praise for part 7. But below that we have... Oh, God. I'm not concerned. I'm conflicted over whether or not I want to put part 4 there or part 2. Because I love part 2, but as I've gone back to it, it's one of those stories where if you think about it for 5 minutes, the whole thing just comes crashing down.
Yeah, like Joseph on a meteor.
Yeah. Falling into the ocean and only losing an arm that got cut off right before he was blasted up into the air by lava 20 feet below him.
Man, he must have planned for a lot of stuff.
We know he's just got a lot of dumb luck.
I planned that this volcano would erupt, bitch. Go into space.
Space forever.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of personal enjoyment, I just love part 2. I love the aesthetic of it. I love that it's like a bouncing world adventure that literally goes all over the fucking place. But I think it really is let down by its story being not terribly airtight.
Nope.
But I do think part 2 is my second favorite part, and it has my second favorite JoJo. So
Okay, fair enough.
And yeah, or maybe
all I can tell you is one thing, and that thing is the truth. Part 7. Number 1.
Yeah, we'll get there. We will get there, definitely.
So,
but I want to give part 6 some time to breathe before I get to 7.
Absolutely.
But with the rest of the parts, it then goes. I guess part 6 is there. I don't. No, wait. Is it better than part 4? I need to go back through part 4. So it's 3 and 4 is part 4 and 6, battling it out. Below that is part 3. I think part 3 is boring for a lot of it.
It's really fun the first time you go through it, but then looking back on it, it's like, okay.
Yeah, I've watched part 3 once. I've read through it once.
Oh.
I really think it pales in comparison to a lot of the later parts, because I reread part 3 around the same time I was reading part 5 for the first time, and I had just finished Notorious B.I.G., and then I went back and read Pet Shop, and I was like, I don't know. Yeah,
and that's the thing though, is that the problem with comparing it to the later parts, you're comparing an 8 out of a 10 to like solid 10 out of 10s. Like,
I'm comparing writing. Yeah. I'm comparing the ability of a writer who has had at least like 6 years to improve their craft. I think part 3 is a great way to introduce stance, but it really doesn't hold up as well, except the last couple of episodes. But it's just pure insanity.
Well, it doesn't hold up as well in context.
I guess so, but I do understand why people love part 3 and why it is so beloved by the Japanese fan base. Memes aside.
Well, yeah, because none of them read part 4.
I guess so. And of course, below part 1, it's fine. I don't care to go back to it just because I don't feel that Jonathan's as interesting a character compared to literally anyone else in the story. And
someone summed it up pretty well for me. Part 1 is it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, it's like season 1 of The Office. Just get through it.
Yep. Yep.
And, you know, outside of It Was Me, Dio, there's really nothing there.
There's not. Like,
I guess Zappelli is funny, but, you know...
Oh, the final fight against Dio is great.
Yeah, the whole thing is good.
Where he cuts Dio in half,
I love
and then
that.
Dio's like, nope!
I'm gonna laser your eye. But, you know, like, Zappelli and Speedwagon are funny, but everyone else is just there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Just get through it. then you can enjoy the rest of the show. And then you can read the rest of the series. Yeah. I'm glad they compacted it into 9 episodes, because if it was 12 of the 26, who knows? I might have dropped it. But, yeah, I guess, yeah, part 6, not bad. I do have a lot of problems with it, though. I guess we can leave it there.
Sounds good.
Ben, do you have anything else to say?
I don't have much else to say. It's a good part, but it is definitely, it's one of the more flawed ones.
Yes.
I think
it has a lot of great stuff. I think Araki wrote the best climax for any of the parts yet in part 6.
Absolutely.
But it is let down by a lot of problems.
Yeah,
and,
it's got some of the series' highest highs and some of the series' lowest lows.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Which leaves it pretty mixed overall, but you know what? I don't regret reading it, especially that last arc.
No. Yeah.
I think it's able to end that really well.
Yep.
And it gives you a lot to think about. Like, when I finished reading part 6, I immediately went to the gym, and a rainstorm had just blown through the area. So the world was a bigger place, let me tell you.
Okay.
Like, the sun was setting, and there was, like, puddles all over the place. I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
I guess I can do the recommendation for next time.
Recommendation. I don't know what you're recommending. What are you recommending?
All right. You have never heard of this, and I know you've never heard of this.
Oh, don't be too sure.
I guess you're right. What I'm going to recommend for the next episode, these episodes are going to be released non-consecutively. We're not going to have a schedule for this because...
Depending on when we finish them.
Yeah. And, okay, so the next series that we're going to be talking about is Mare.
All right, yeah, no, I don't think I know it.
It's by Nobuyuki Anzai. He is the man who made Flame of Recca. It's his next work that he made after that. It's spelled M-A-R in caps, and there are the 2 little dots that you see in the German language above the A. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
Hold on.
What? Yeah. Hit me with a premise?
I don't know anything about this. I'll look at the I'll look at the description on manga.
Okay.
Ginta Toramizu is a 14-year-old kid who doesn't have.
You know what? I've seen it. I've seen this title. I've seen this. Very specific.
The only reason I chose
boy with
this
a hammer,
because,
and like the hammer has a little ball and chain that has a Wario's face on it. Hell yeah!
So
it is an isekai. God fucking damn it!
Don't worry, this was in 2003 before Sword Art Online influenced everything. The only reason I chose this series is because Nobuyuki Anzai made Flame of Recca.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? This one's only 15 volumes long. Only 15, but it's about as long as Stone Ocean.
It seems to be rated pretty high on manga decks, at least.
It has a lot of goodwill to it. A lot of people have a lot of problems with it, and I was thinking, you know what? I like this author, and what better way to spark discussion than with something that could have a lot to like and dislike. It shouldn't take as long as compared to something like Berserk or any given long runner at the time right now. I thought it would be a great decision, and you know what? The whole thing's up there.
All right.
Mare
it's
stands
161 chapters, so I can probably burn through it pretty quickly.
The Mare, if you are wondering what that is, it's the translator who has a lot of translator notes in between chapters and sometimes on the pages that are pretty funny, even if they are a little juvenile. But basically what it stands for is Mare is like the second half of the word nightmare.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it stands for Marchin Awakes Romance.
I don't know. Maybe that's a subtitle.
Because that's on the volume.
Oh,
1.
is it?
It says Marchin.
Yeah, it's right there.
Awakens Romance.
All right. Well, I guess we'll have to read it ourselves to see what.
Here's the description. I'll read the description
is.
in the voice. Ginta Torimizu is a 14-year-old kid who doesn't have a lot going for him. He's nearsighted, doesn't do well in school, sucks at sports, and to top it off, he's short. But Ginta is a dreamer, and has had the same dream 102 times.
Oh my god.
Okay. Always in the same fantasy world, where he is a hero blessed with all the abilities he lacks in real life. So
I hope he's comically tall.
He's just really tall.
He's as
then
tall
one day,
as like
a supernatural figure appears at Ginta's school and summons him to a mysterious and exciting new world. In this strange universe, filled with magic and wonder, he is strong, tough, and agile, and he can see without his glasses. Thus, Ginta begins a mystical quest in search of the magical items known as RMS.
RMS Titanic.
Or just RMs? I don't know. One of which may have the power to send him home. Why would he... Okay. Joining him on this epic journey are his companion Jack, and the valuable living, talking, mustachioed iron ball weapon known as Babbo, which everyone wants, but it seems only Ginta can possess.
Okay. So there's some intrigue for you. Alright, so that, I think that will be, we'll have some things to talk about next time. So, get hyped for Mayor.
Yeah, get hyped for this thing.
This thing? Yeah.
Mad hyped.
I'm glad I found it. Yeah. I'm actually really excited to start reading this.
Alright.
Because I loved Flame of Recca, even though it took me almost 2 fucking years to read it. But yeah, thank you for listening to the first episode of the Nonplussed Bookcast.
Yeah, it's been a trip. This will be good.
Yeah, it was fun, and I'm really excited to continue it. And then next time, after we read Mare, Ben, you will be able to recommend something. So I'm looking forward to what you recommend.
Part 7. No. Might not. It might be part 7. It might not.
It very well could be. It very well could be.
All right.
Yeah, but thank you for listening, and see you next time when we discuss Mare.
I'm the mayor of this town.
I'm the mayor. I'm a horse.
Nay. All right, let's just
yeah, let's just end it there.
Okay.